She's a conservative and I'm liberal, and yet we've been friends for almost 40 years. Everyone says you shouldn't discuss politics, religion, or money. And we say that's exactly what friends should be talking about. Join us as we tackle the conversations you're having in your head, but are too scared to say out loud. Welcome to We've Got to Talk. Hello, Jolene.
Hello, Nicole. Today, we are talking about the SAVE Act, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act that Trump is trying to get passed and has put his foot down and said, you pass this or nothing else happens. And so thank you for joining us today. And we are going to discuss both the right and the left, our perspectives, and we'll see where this takes us.
I'll give you my hot takes.
Nicole, the liberal.
All right. Number one, this is Trump's big play to undermine voting integrity for the midterms. He knows he's going to lose. He said point blank in this meeting with the GOP leadership that passing this bill is his number one priority. He said, quote, passing this act equals saving the midterms, unquote. Number two, this act includes his favorite hot button topics, immigration and voting rights. He claimed in 2016 that 3 million votes were illegal. And according to the Brennan Center of Justice, only possibly 30 votes out of 23.5 million were illegal. And they talked about how rare and illegal it actually is. And it's so easy because when you register, there's a paper trail, that it's incredibly easy to get caught and that you face deportation, fines, and possible 5 years in jail. Number three, this act, and this is going to be more convoluted, I feel like the Democrats keep highlighting that it's going to affect women and people of color, and I think it's not a correct angle. Because really, if you dive deep into this act, what it includes, it's affecting all of our rights. And I think that honestly, this is something that maybe you and I might actually agree on, that it doesn't necessarily need to be in a left and a right issue. Basically, if this act passes, states would be required to turn in their voting rolls to DHS. And it would be a federalized information highway, for lack of a better term, which when we talk about states' rights, which seems to usually be much more of a rights concern, this is surprising to me that some of the right is on board with this because this is going to affect all of us. And I think that's a selling point that I wish Democrats, liberals, that you would focus on that and stop focusing on women and people of color because they're annoyed with you. I'm annoyed with you. Let's actually talk about what really needs to be talked about. And part of my number three is that we're not looking at all of the acts because Trump is slipping in stuff into that bill that has nothing to do with voting rights, transgender and sports. What does that have to do with voter rights? And that's in this bill.
Okay. All right. Number one, the U.S. right now has no single national voting system. Every state can do their own thing. And currently, all you need to do to register to vote, typically it's done at the DMV, the Department of Motorized Vehicles, when you get your driver's license. All you have to do is check a box saying, I assert that all of this information is correct and that I am a U.S. citizen. However, some states allow same-day voting, like the same day as the election. Like you can register to vote as you are going into a voting poll. 10 states allow that. Some states, it's automatic that you go to the DMV, you have to actually opt out to register to vote because it's automatic at the DMV. That's 20 states. And then there are some states that allow you to vote by mail with the least amount of regulations to be able to mail in your ballot. There's 3 states, Oregon, Washington, Colorado. So to say that there's it's the wild, wild west as far as that goes. So to your point, and I do want to talk about this, about states' rights versus having a federalized election system. I do think that I think the reason that was implemented in the first place, back 250 years ago, was because they didn't have a national database at the time so it was really, you knew everybody that was voting because you voted locally and that was how it was done. So we can talk about that. Okay, number 2. This would increase the confidence in election integrity. And I think that's the big thing, right? You kind of alluded to this, that Trump's going to claim that there's a voter fraud if the Republicans lose in the midterms. And I would say the whole idea that some states require you to show an ID when you show up to vote and others don't, I think it would allow us to feel like the votes were counted and they mattered and they were valid. Number 3, and this kind of goes with your third point as well, 91% of Americans 18 and older have a driver's license. So, to say that, oh my gosh, it's going to be so hard for the poor and the rural people and, blacks and women and all that. You're right. It's such a bad argument, because if 91% of Americans over the age of 18 have a driver's license, you can register to vote, and you should have that information.
Just so you know, where it is a little tricky is if this went through, it says that you would need to prove citizenship with either a valid U.S. passport or a birth certificate with a valid photo ID.
Which you have to show a birth certificate or a social security card when you get your driver's license. So as you're getting your driver's license, it's the same information that you're already providing. And so I think that is an argument that it just doesn't hold water. And I think it's an insult. You and I kind of talked before we got started. It's an insult to a lot of Americans saying that we're looking out for you because we just don't think that you're capable of doing this. No, you are. And we have to show an ID to get on a plane. We have to show an ID to buy beer. We have to show an ID. So
let's start with what we could possibly agree on. How about that?
Okay.
And I've been thinking about this because you know how they now have the real ID? I think it was supposed to happen in 2020, actually. And there was a pandemic. They were like, you know what? We're going to give you all extra time. This is going to take some time before everybody can get on board. And I think it took about 5 years to be like, okay, we're not playing. You really need it. We're serious now. You've had 5 years. Here's the real ID, or you can't get on the plane or whatever, right? So I'm just going to put it out there to you, Jolene. Liberal, Democrat, I would be down with this idea if it was rolled out slowly. Where I have a problem is that it seems I feel insulted that Trump is doing this because it's like, dude, you like everyone is thinking, and you know what? The Democrats could completely, is it eat crow? Is that the phrase I want? That we're so cocky that we think we're going to win the midterms big time, right? But everyone's saying that Trump is going to lose the midterms. And so
not Trump. Trump's
the
not running in
Republicans.
the midterms.
I'm sorry. Yes. That the Republicans are going to lose, and that where I feel insulted, I'm like, if you don't think we don't understand that you want to do this right now because you want to make sure you want to actually put in our American brains that the voting system is rigged. You did it already. What I find crazy, Jolene, and tell me if this feels similar, like he's played this already. He's played this game already. And this is the thing that I'm a little confused by, and work with me a second. He claims that the 2020 election was stolen, and then it wasn't stolen, and then it was stolen. But all the Republicans that won in 2020, their votes weren't stolen, just the ones that his votes were not stolen. And then in 2022, the Republicans did pretty well. That wasn't stolen. And then in 2024, when he won again, then that wasn't stolen.
All right. Number one, let's just get this out here.
Okay.
Should there be a federalized, a national voting standard?
I don't. I think we're getting into dangerous territory with that, because when you have someone like Trump in power, this is my opinion, I think he wants to win at all costs. Here's what I do think. I'm sort of surprised that we don't show an ID.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we agree
so
with that.
we can agree that
Okay. Good.
that when we're looking at this, I'm like, well, isn't it kind of funny that we don't? Right.
Okay. Okay. Good.
So I can say that. I can look at that and go, huh, that's a little odd.
Yeah. Okay.
And we can look at the stats, and there's very little fraud. But if there is, maybe ID would help remedy that. I can absolutely get on board with you about that. And I think in other countries they do that. And so it's sort of surprising that we haven't implemented that in our system. And I'd be totally on board with you to get a system in that way that, like...
Okay, but that's what I mean, though, by a federalized standard system. So not that he's take Trump out of this. I don't mean that he's running
I would get on board, absolutely get on board that we'd have to provide ID to register.
Okay, but I'm saying, don't you think that all states should have to go under the same rule? Like the United States, this is how you vote in national elections. Everybody, like for one state to say, no, you don't have to show an ID, and for another state to say, yes, you do, and for this state to say, we only do mail-in ballots, and this state says, no, we don't do any of those. Don't you think there should be some standards nationally to have some rules and regulations?
I don't mind the mail-in ballot if the whole idea is you need to register and show that you're a citizen. I don't see what the problem is with it, honestly. I really don't. I don't think if you asked many people that in concept and like that makes sense, and that, let's say, for instance, Colorado, you said does mail-in. Well, that in order for them to get their ballot mailed to them, they would have to prove that they are a citizen whether it's the passport or whatever. I don't think it should be done in 3 months. Should be done. I don't think it can be done in time for the midterms. I
agree with you.
So let me be clear, Jolene. The word federalized, I think what I don't like, I don't like a lot about this bill. And a main one is that states are supposed to send their voter registrations to the federal government. I think that we go into really tricky waters at that point. Also because of if all the system is going into one pool, let's say, it's easier to have cyber attacks, and that I think that there is some sense of control when all the states do their own monitoring. I could get on board if you and I were co-presidents and or like head of Congress, that we could say, you know what, let's work on this together. Why shouldn't we prove that we are citizens of the United States? And I could say that it could make things a lot easier, as you put it, I think it was hot take number 2, about the integrity of it. You'd have a harder time saying, well, they cheated when everybody knew.
Here's some other statistics that lend itself to think that there is fraud going on in our elections over the years. However, the fact that you had said this, that there has been very little fraud proven in the last several elections. I don't think that we have the capacity to verify that because there isn't a database to compare it against. And let me tell you why. There are 36 states that require some sort of ID on Election Day. So as you go to the polling place, you will show an ID. And maybe we need to back up here too, because what this SAVE Act is saying is that you have to show prior to Election Day, this is when you're registering to vote. So initially, when you're registering to vote in your state, that you have to come up with a passport, a birth certificate, your marriage license if you've changed your name. You have to come up with these documents that then allow you to register to vote. That is different than the day of voting, showing up at your polling place. So it's not like the day that you show up to vote on Election Day that you're having to show all of this paperwork. Like at that point, you hope that you have already gone through the process of having your registration. So you show up, you say, I'm Jolene, I'm here to vote. So 36 states require some sort of ID on Election Day. 24 require an actual photo ID, but 12 others of those 36 that require some type of identification, 24, it has to be a photo ID. The other 12, you just have to show a utility bill or a bank statement. So it doesn't have to go with the picture. So you can show up with, somebody else's bank statement or somebody else's utility bill and go, I'm voting, I'm Bill Schmill, and I'm here to vote. So you could see where that could happen, right? Okay. 14 states don't require any voter ID. They show up, you check in, you say, I'm Jolene, you sign your name, you get to go vote. Your vote is cast. Now, there's also provisional ballots, and this would also take place in the SAVE Act, that if you show up and this happens today, if you show up and your name's not on the voter rolls, you've not registered to vote, this is true for today, and this would be true under the SAVE Act, that you can still vote, but it's considered a provisional ballot. And then once it's proven that you are who you say that you are, then your vote will be counted, but not until. And that's the same with, so that is true for today as it would be in this new bill. So no one would ever be turned away from voting. And I think that's the important thing too, to recognize, because we always talk about it, every single vote counts and your vote matters. So that's, I think the scare tactic that I keep hearing from, I think, people on the other side who are saying, you show up and your vote's not even going to count if you don't have the right ID. That's not true. Okay. Okay. Here's the other thing. Okay. This is, I think, the most important part. We have somewhere, arguably, between 10 and 30 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. Do you know that 19 states allow undocumented immigrants to obtain a driver's license?
Where did you get this information?
Thank you for asking.
You're
I got
welcome.
This from Consumer Affairs website.
Okay. They can get a driver's license. But like I said in my hot takes, if they commit a crime, quite frankly, of voting, they can be found incredibly easy. There's a paper trail to their name. They have 5 years of jail time, fines, and deportation.
So when you say that there's been very little fraud proven, how many of those people do you think are verifying that paper trail?
So all I can tell you is I did some Googling to figure out, I was like, how many people are committing these crimes? I didn't really understand. And this is, the Brennan Center of Justice did a study, and they were talking about 2016. I can't speak to 2020, can't speak to 2022, can't speak to 2024. But in their records, it said non-citizen votes counted to 0.0001%. They were found and they were copped. And I feel like this again is Trump's play. He loves riling up the right to be like, these people are taking your jobs, your votes, and they're not.
These people, meaning illegal,
undocumented immigrants. I mean, this is the same grift he keeps doing. And why are we still like, seriously? You're spending so much time like throwing people out of the country, and you're still now going to play this again? These immigrants are now taking the votes. And I'm like, give me a break.
Do you feel like, though, that there is an opportunity for fraud in the system today? If by me saying that 19 states allow undocumented immigrants to get a driver's license, and then that database feeds into the state's system, but not on a federal level, is there a possibility that they're able to vote when they show up on election day?
I suppose.
I mean, is there a possibility?
Of course, there's a possibility, and they're even saying in the SAVE Act that if election workers register someone and don't have all of the proof, that they can be thrown in jail for 5 years.
Okay, well, that seems a little extreme.
So this is the thing, Jolene. This is where I want to. It's not even push back. I just want to take this apart a second, because some of this SAVE Act I could actually maybe say sure, but let's do it. This is a longer process. You don't get to take our the state's voter rolls for your benefit to the federal level. You can't throw in transgender sports. Sometimes I feel like he just makes it impossible for any sort of bipartisanship. If you and I were co-presidents, it's like, well, let's look at this. This makes sense to me, but why are we throwing all this other stuff in? And then you're going to punish election workers? It's so hard to get election workers. They work so hard for so little money. And now someone makes a mistake and you're going to throw them in jail for 5 years?
So here's what's so funny about this is I read this. I mean, as a Republican, and they want to, when I hear that there's a push to make some standardized rules for elections, I think, well, that's a no-brainer. To have to show an ID to vote, that seems like a no-brainer. And so I have to say, I have honestly not thought at all that Trump wanted to get this done before the midterms, that was a push. And I mean, until you said that. And I'm like, that's interesting. Why you guys are pushing back on this.
Yes.
I had never thought. Had never thought about it that way.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't it interesting that I think if an idea comes about that, hey, we should do this, and Republicans are like, God, yeah, I think, why haven't we done that before now? And Democrats say, no, absolutely not, because you have an ulterior motive. And that was never part of the initial conversation. It's almost like it gets convoluted into, why is Trump wanting to do this? What's the, what's
his motive?
The ulterior motive?
What's his motive? Because
I don't know if anything can ever be introduced without, again, I've said this, there's so little room for us to have bipartisan disagreements and get things done, because as soon as Trump comes up with something, everybody goes, nope, what's his ulterior motive? Okay, nope, we can't do that. I think this is such a great example of that. So I want to say, I agree with you. No way could we push to get this done by midterms, but is it something that needs to be done? Yes. Here's the other thing that I heard somebody say too, was that there's no funding in the SAVE Act if the big push or the big roadblock to this bill is, how do you get those people who, again, live in rural America or are poor and don't have a ride to get to, their courthouse, even a county courthouse, in order to get, maybe they're old and they don't have a birth certificate. I mean, all of those things. There's no funding in the SAVE Act to be able to say, okay, well, we need to have an outreach program then to get these people. We need to go out to these communities, and we need to, be able to come up with some type of system, whether it's, in the middle of nowhere, Washington state, or where they have to rely on mail-in balloting because it's just easier for them because they maybe live 100 miles from their county precinct or, their polling place. Or if it's rural Mississippi and, they don't have means, whatever. That is something else that I would say, okay, let's make it. And in fact, the quote was, if the requirement is hard to meet, then you don't remove the requirement. you make it easier to meet.
I would agree with you 1,000%. Because I think where Democrats are making it a people of color and a woman issue is because more people of color and women are Democrats. So they're looking at it. You're trying to take votes away from us. And that could be a ploy. It could be. I could totally get down with this, Jolene, if it was done thoughtfully.
Yeah.
And it was a long rollout. Okay, how do we do this so that everyone will feel that their vote counts and the vote is honest? I don't think a Democrat would say, nah. They would be like, okay, let's do it. I mean, listen, if he wanted to propose this after the midterms, and whether he lost,
and you'd be on board.
If he lost the midterms big time, let's just have a scenario. It was a huge blue wave, and he didn't call fraud, and he went, okay, it is what it is. This is the system. Then he said, let's figure out a way to make this work. One thing that I thought was funny, not funny, but funny, ironic funny, that last week in the GOP meeting, when he was like, this is the number one priority, and I will not sign anything. And I'm thinking, you don't sign anything anyway. Like, you don't work with Congress. Like, you make your own rules, and how is this any different? And then I kept reading in those articles that you and I both were looking at. If the Congress is in session when a bill has been proposed, if it hasn't been signed by the president in 10 days, it will automatically go to law. Now, I'm sure that there's a lot of loopholes that they can jump through, but I thought that was interesting. I did not know that was a possibility. Yeah. And I guess I want to say this, Joe. I don't feel like this is Trump derangement syndrome. It really is like, seriously, it is March 12th, and the midterms are November, whatever it is. Do you remember 4th or?
4th. No, 3rd.
3rd. You want to do this now? That's interesting. And so Democrats are like, hell no. There's a guy in Alabama that is like just throwing people off of the roller, the
rolls.
Thank you. The rolls. Voter rolls. Like, there was this one, it was of course just one story, but this woman who had been an immigrant who worked really hard to be a citizen. She was so excited to vote. And then he pulled her from the roll, and she was livid to the point where she's like, well, she didn't say F this, but like, I don't want to do it. And I'm thinking, lady, don't let that guy stop you. Like, keep going. And I think that's the other thing that I think people, maybe Democrats, maybe Republicans, if they get quiet with themselves, is that we as a human race, it doesn't matter if you're left or right or whatever, we want things to be easy. Yeah. And getting people to vote anyway is really hard. I can't remember. Do you know off the top of your head the percentage of Americans that actually do vote? There's not.
In a national election?
I mean, they certainly don't in the primaries, right? Which actually is sometimes more
state
important.
State elections, local elections, right? But it's less than 10%, isn't it?
Yeah, something
it's like
something
stupid.
like that.
Yes,
something.
So
like
don't
that.
you think that if we did make this a big deal, like you have to, go and get your voter registration, and it's a big deal, and all that maybe that would get more people to vote? Like, oh, okay, I'm assuming a lot of people don't know. Number one, where to vote, how to vote, what they're voting on. I mean, I think that's probably why people don't vote, is they don't want to look dumb. If we made it a bigger deal, then maybe they would take it seriously and go, okay, this is my right. This is something that I can make a difference in.
I agree 1,000%, Jolene.
Oh my God, we agree on so much.
Well, I feel like we have just become so polarized. So we can't all be Americans having our right to vote, which, Geeky McGeekerson over here, when I turned 18, I couldn't wait to vote. Like, it was just like, oh my God, this is so exciting. But a lot of kids aren't taught that. or they feel discouraged, like I don't count, or whatever it might be, or they didn't have a family that voted. Like, so I guess what's so hard is that we're just in a place where there's so much ulterior motive.
Had this been a bipartisan bill that was put forward, if it would have been Schumer and Thune,
Right.
pick two people, then everybody would go like,
but we've even talked about how people will not even highlight that. There's another bill that I haven't had a chance to look up. Do you know this bill, Josh Hawley and Elizabeth Warren? Senator Elizabeth Warren and Josh Hawley are leading a bipartisan effort to crack down on corporate, specifically healthcare monopolies. Their primary initiative, Break Up Big Medicine Act, aims to restructure the healthcare industry, prohibiting vertical integration between insurers, pharmacy, and benefit managers and providers to reduce the costs. Those moments are super exciting.
Why isn't that being the headlines?
Why isn't that the headlines? Why isn't that the
right?
headlines, right?
Why don't we see 15 different influencers talking about it on Instagram?
Right.
But no, we see Chuck Schumer talking about Jim Crow 2.0 with the SAVE Act. And seriously,
it's so exhausting.
Can I say one more thing? Because one of the other arguments is it'll be hard for women who are newly married and have a name change to get their name changed on this for a voter registration. And being the mother of two daughters who have recently been married, this is the process that you have to go through to get a new driver's license, to get a new social security card, it's a matter of getting your marriage license, a certified marriage license, which you get when you get married from the county that you're married in. And you have that with you. And you show that with your passport, you get a new passport. You show that with your social security card, you get a new social security card. I mean, all these things with your name change. It's not like, we're inventing some process that is going to be so incredibly hard. This is what women have to do all the time.
When the girls are registered to vote, are they registered under their birth name versus their new married name? And so how does that work? So that if they go to a poll and they're like, okay, I'm registered to vote, and they're like, your birth certificate does not match this name.
So then you'll show your marriage certificate, just as you do when you get your license changed, as you get your credit cards changed, as you get your checking account changed, as you get your utility bills changed. Everything. When you change your name, it's just another thing, right? You have to go through all those things anyway.
According to the SAVE Act requirements, either it's a valid U.S. passport or your birth certificate with a valid photo ID. Now, if you're married and you have a driver's license or something that has your married name and your birth certificate is not the same name, that's where they're talking about it being tricky.
But what I'm saying is you're not going to get a driver's license in a new name without registering to vote at that time. You see what I mean? Like if you're getting a new driver's license with your new married name,
but
you're
Jolene,
also
I think that they're talking about when you go to vote, you have to show.
No. You have to register to vote, right? We're talking about registering to vote.
No, but they're saying in the SAVE Act that it would require voters to go into their polling site with their birth certificate.
No, because what we're talking about is your voter registration, not the day of voting. This whole act is about voter registration.
That's not what I understand this to be. When you go in to vote, that you have to bring your valid U.S. passport or your birth certificate with a matching photo ID to vote.
No, that's not the case. This SAVE Act is for voter registration. It allows you to get a voter registration card where you have to prove with a photo ID or your passport so that you then have a voter registration card. So on the day of the election and you go into the polling place to vote, you're showing your voter registration card along with your ID. So if your name has changed in that time period, you will get a new ID, right? You will submit your marriage certificate to go get your new ID as you change all of your other IDs when you get married. If enacted, the law would require election officials to verify citizenship using documents such as a U.S. passport or a birth certificate or certificate of naturalization or other official documentation providing citizenship. So like I'd read where it was like your tribal documentations if you're Native American and all that. People registering to vote would likely need to present these documents in person or provide certified copies.
But here's the question to you, Jolene. Let's say this worked. Let's say we did that, but then you'd go into your polling place. Then what happens?
So you show your voter registration where you've already had to prove everything, because then now you have a voter registration card.
Does your voter registration card have a photograph on
a photo ID? I think it will. I don't know. That's actually a really good question.
Because to me, if you're doing that, wouldn't you just do that?
Right. And then you have to show a photo ID as well. So when you show up to vote, if they didn't have this pre-registration, God, maybe that's what they need to call it, is a pre-registration. You've done all the documentating before actual election day. Because if you show up at the polls and you're asking the election officials to go through all your paperwork and your documents, that's not a very effective system. So on the day of elections, then you're showing up at your polling place and you're showing your voter registration card and a photo ID. This is who I am.
In theory, I totally agree with you. It is the way it is being presented, the stuff that they're folding into the act to try to get away with it, and the fact that he wants it done before November. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Completely agree.
And then it just makes it makes Democrats certainly seem like, seriously, do you think we're suckers? Like you're trying to make sure that we lose when we are, everyone is saying that we're totally going to take the House. You're putting doubt into Americans' minds that something is wrong with our system. And so therefore, because I just feel like, Joe, that he's just laying the groundwork so that when they lose the House, he says there's fraud.
So if they lose the House, then...
Because I don't think he'll go quietly, do you?
Well, I was just going to say, then we'll see, the proof will be in the pudding. If the Republicans after that push for the SAVE Act at that point, okay, then we really do want, free and fair elections.
Absolutely.
If they're just pushing it just to get it done before the midterms to screw people, then it's obviously wrong. So
this is the other thing. It used to be when you lost, I don't care which side you were on, you conceded. And people don't do that anymore.
Certain people
are not conceding. Listen, I think we are not actually in disagreement pretty much at all on this. It's just the way it's being rolled out. And I think also we're playing politics here. They're all playing politics. Trump's playing politics, saying, I'm not going to pass anything until this is done. Schumer's trying to put his politics on it, like it's going to affect women and people of color, and people of color and women are going, fuck you, like let me be me and stay out of my way. And then the entire idea is completely convoluted.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. See, we agree.
Look at that.
Vote for Nicole and Jolene, co-presidents 2028.
That's right.
Do you have a would you rather?
I do. Would you rather be a genius that everyone thinks is an idiot?
Okay.
Or be an idiot that everyone thinks is a genius?
Oh, 100% idiot. I would totally go for idiot that everyone thinks I'm a genius, because I feel like it's the other way around right now. I feel like I'm a genius and everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Here's yours. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Would you rather forget to vote in an election where your candidate lost by 1 vote? Or be featured on the front of the New York Times for being arrested in Chinatown for buying a fake purse?
Oh my God. Okay. So I live downtown and I have to go through that nonsense every day. I walk.
So jealous.
And Canal Street has just gotten so bad, Jolene. It's so bad. And you're the one, hilariously, that introduced me to this world. I had no idea.
You didn't know about it before I told you about it?
Absolutely not. You came, you were like, we got to go do this thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And you took me to Canal Street and you took me to some secret door. It was a whole other world. I had no idea. Didn't you buy a bunch of things too?
Oh my gosh.
That
Every
was
time
years
we've
ago.
gone. Yes.
Yes.
We bought jewelry and purses and belts and watches and
Yes.
because they fell off the truck.
They fell off the truck. Now you can't even walk down the street. I'm not kidding.
I thought they cracked down on it.
Once. It was all for show.
Oh,
They cracked down on it. You saw it on the news.
Yeah.
It was a big show. And it lasted for a day. Because that's how that
Wow.
works. That's the thing. Smoke and mirrors. Like, ooh, we cracked down. It's all over. So your question is,
Would you rather forget to vote in an election where
Yeah,
your
this
candidate
upsets
lost
me.
by one vote, or be featured on the front of the New York Times for being arrested in Chinatown for buying a fake purse?
listen, I would never buy the fake purse in the first place. So
I asked you to go down there. You were getting it for me.
That makes me sad because, of course, I do that for you. And listen, forgetting to vote and the candidate loses by one, that's like actor's nightmare stuff. And I don't think I could live with myself about that. And
Look
if
at
I
you.
was,
You're doing this with your hands already. Like you're thinking about
I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what? If you asked me to do it, I would do it for you. So I'd get arrested.
Oh, my
and
friend.
then I would be on the cover of the New York Times, and then our podcast will just blow up. So I'll
Any
do
publicity is good publicity.
That's right. That's right. And I'm like, listen, I do anything for my conservative friend. That purse better been worth it. Listen, no one gets arrested. You know how, thousands of people a day are buying this fake shit or stolen shit. I guess it's all of it. It's all the things. And
oh my God, that's funny.
people get very excited about it. Yeah. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jolene,
That was
for
fun.
having this
Thank you.
discussion. I'm constantly surprised by our conversation, and I think listener and viewer, I really encourage you to have these kind of conversations because I'm constantly surprised about what my friend is going to say. And the thing that I'm most surprised by is that when I delve into a subject that I'm going to go in and talk to my friend Jolene about, I end up learning things and finding things out, and my opinion starts to change. It is not about a left opinion or a right opinion. It's about my opinion and what I think. And then I talk to my friend who is not having a right opinion or a left opinion. She's having her opinion. And then you find that you have a lot of things that you're like, well, I can agree with that. Can you agree with this? And if you
That is
don't
so
agree
well
with
said.
right, and if you don't agree with it, so what? That
Right.
doesn't mean that you're not your friend. Like,
You're still going to go to Canal Street and buy me a purse because I asked you to.
I am, and I'm going to get arrested for you because I love you that much.
That is so well said. And I think the thing too that we realize is that I don't always think in the same patterns as you. And so you ultimately, come to a conclusion based on your experience. And I never would have thought that. And so I'm like, oh, well, of course you think that this is all,
Right.
driven for that reason because I didn't think about that. So
Right.
yeah, I agree.
There
I
you go.
think this is such good, healthy conversation. So
Thank
you for joining us on We've Got to Talk. We appreciate you. And please share, like, subscribe, give us a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about or
Yes.
things that you're talking to your friends about. We would love to hear it. So please reach out to us on our website.
Let's have some positive love out there. We all really need it. I love you, Jolene, and I will
love you, my friend.
See you on the flip.
Okay.
Bye-bye. We've Got to Talk is produced across the world by the wildly talented, creative, and hilarious team at Bambi Media. Our theme song is Jump Jive Swing by Space Train Unlimited. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every week for another episode of We've Got to Talk.